Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to talk about some of the import and export options you have with MagicQ, mainly with dealing with merging or removing certain show data from a show, creating a new show from a part of an existing show, and how you can bring that information back in. So to get started, we have the Chauvet demo show here. And the first thing we're going to do is show you how to do what would be a partial save. So if I had a show here and I had some cues and stacks that I wanted to keep, say as an example, I had a touring rig where I had a full rig previously with a floor package and a flown rig, and maybe on the next tour I'm going to, I only get the floor package. I can take my existing show file and I can save only the fixtures that are in my floor package to a new show file, and all of the cues, stacks, palettes, everything associated with just that floor package group of fixtures would be in that new show. This is called exporting a show. It's very easy. All I do is pick the fixtures that I'd like to export. So say I wanted my spots, R2 washes, my beams, and that's it. I don't want the front of house truss. I don't want the back line of pars. I don't want the nexus. I just want those three main moving lights. I can select those fixtures in the group window. I can then go into setup, go into view settings, hold down shift, and you'll see an option that says export show. Once I hit that, it's up prompting me for a name. I can say this is my demo show export as a name and save the show. Now, if we reload that show, what you'll see has happened is we have the exact same show, but only information, only cues, palettes, and effects, cue stacks, and execute screen items pertaining to those fixtures have remained. If we look at our patch, you'll see we only have the three fixture types that we chose in our patch. If we look at our viz, you'll see the only things that came over from the viz were things associated with those fixtures, down to even the truss. It took the items that those fixtures were attached to, but not the rest of the rig. Again, this is great when you have to pare down a rig, or if you're transitioning from one rig to another, but you know there's some similar elements. You can take those pieces, save them, or export the show as a new show, and end up with just those pieces. Now, once you have this partial save, or if you have another show you've been working with, what you can do is you can adjust your patch, and then we could take this information and we can actually pull this back into another show. So to get started, I'm going to adjust some head numbers, because if you try to merge a show or import a show into an existing show file, what MagicQ is going to look for is the head numbers. And if they match up, MagicQ is going to assume those are intended to be the same fixture. So just to be sure we're out of the way, I'm going to actually make these into the 2000s of my head numbers. So it'll be 2001 for our washes, 3001 for our beams, and 1001 for our spots. I'm going to go back and I'm just going to do a normal show save so that those changes take. And then I'm going to load the show I'd like to bring that information into. So if we go into our demo shows, if I was to grab something like the 48 channel desk show, this is just a simple rig with a bunch of park hands up top. It's nothing too fancy. If I now wanted to bring that partial save or that exported show into this, first thing I would want to do is look at patch, make sure we're not going to have any head number conflicts, and considering there's only 48 dimmers in this show, there shouldn't be. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go setup, view settings. Again, I'll hold down shift, and this time I'll choose import show. It's going to ask me what I would like to import. The whole show, just the palettes, show structure, which we'll talk about in a minute. Show structure is a really nice one. A new or obsolete setting, which may or may not be populated in your software, and then advanced. In this example, I want the entire show, so I can click entire show. I can find my demo export show, click that, and it'll import. Now you can see it brought the patch in, so now I have my other fixtures. They're in the correct spot in the visualizer. as well as it's added a page with the playbacks for those fixtures from that original show. It's brought over the execute screen and all of the items associated with those fixtures, Q stacks, Q store, and even some of the output grids should have come essentially. I don't think I had any output grids for those fixtures in this example though. Everything should work as expected. All our cues should be there, and they should play back exactly as they did in the other show. So this is a really cool way of merging two pieces of information together. A little bit more advanced, or a way to have better control over what comes in, is if we were to do this again, we'll load up a new show to import everything into. So let's go back to our demos. Let's find something a little more complex, like maybe the Ruby demo show. So here's a show with a bunch more lights in it. We can go look at our patch. Again, we can make sure that there's no conflicts in head numbers. So in here, we do have fixtures in the 1000 range. So what we would want to do is we would want to change those so that there's no conflict. So we'll take these and we'll make these maybe 701. And then again, it's as simple as going setup, import show. This time we could choose advanced, and we will choose our demo export show. And now we're presented with a bunch of options as to what we would like. Maybe I don't really care about the queues or the stacks. I just want the palettes and the patch. Maybe I do want the queues and the stacks, but I don't care about the grids or the viz information. Maybe I'd like to merge some information so I can merge pages and stuff together. If you're going to use merge, you have to do a little bit more work on making sure there's no collisions, meaning if there's something in QStack 15, you don't want it in 15 in both shows. So sometimes you have to move those stacks down in the QStack store. You have to do a little bit of work to make sure that everything lines up all right. The other cool thing about this is I can choose which fixtures I want. So rather than doing a partial save and bringing it back in like we did in the previous example, I can take a whole show and say choose from head file. And when I click done, I'm presented with each type of fixture. So maybe I just want the spots and the washes in this one, not the beams. I can click done. It's going to do its job, and you'll see we're presented with spot circle and the wash tilt like we had in the original Vive demo show. The fixtures are in place in the viz where they're supposed to be. And again, everything associated with them, palettes, Q stacks, execute screen items have come over. So a really cool way to just kind of, again, mash up two shows and get everything lined up and working right. Another really cool thing that you can do is import the show structure. So if we go and we loaded our Chauvet demo show back up, I have a show that has a very complex execute screen in it that has effects built and things like that. It's got my festival layout for an execute screen. What I can do is I can pull those cues and those execute screen items and those layouts into this show as basically empty stacks and empty queues. And the screens will be built already. Everything will be where it's supposed to be, and I just have to populate them. So if I've taken all of that time to build the execute screen, if we load this show, I can show you what I'm talking about. We come in here and we find our festival show. This show has a bunch of soft palette regions already built, a bunch of effects cues already built. It has some options for the light and dark. It's got some zoom faders built. So I have a lot going on here that I've taken the time to build. Now, I may not be able to adapt this show to my new show, but I may want to be able to access all of this stuff without having to completely rebuild these screens from scratch. So what I can do is I can come in here, I can load my Chauvet demo show back up, which is where we're going to start. And then I can do what's called loading the show structure. So if we hold shift, we go to import show, we choose show structure, and we'll choose our festival show. It's going to go through. It's going to tell me something's not patched in the file. That's fine. But what I end up with is all of the Q stacks that were in that previous show. Some of them may work, some of them may not. It depends, again, on head numbers and patch. But they're there. Even if they're completely empty, they're there. We view this queue, there's nothing there. But even my execute screen items, I have my page that has all of my Q stacks and my zoom faders. I have my effects page. I just need to rebuild the soft palette regions for those effects as I rebuild them. And basically, it's giving me the framework of my show without me having to go through all the trouble of rebuilding these screens from scratch. And like I said, all of the Q stacks are here from the playbacks as well. If we go down a few pages here, you should see they're already laid out. So I hope you found this useful. It is really nice to be able to import and export that information directly from one show to another. It's great to be able to bring patch information in from one show to another. Again, it relies solely on head numbers. And then I really like the bring in show structure because I spend a lot of time building some screens like this, and I'd really hate to have to rebuild them every time I have a new and different show. So this really gives you a good stepping off point for getting your new show started. So thanks for watching, and as always, you can find us at www.camsyslighting.com.